Welcome to Principles of Chemistry, first semester, also known as CH213. The purpose of this video is to give you sort of a walkthrough of the course, and especially in the Blackboard learning management system. So, first thing I need to do is share this screen right here. And what you should be seeing is my picture in either a small thumbnail or on the side of the screen. But here we are. You'll recognize this as the Southern homepage. And for those of you, just a little extra information. If you want to do anything relative to your particular account with the college, you go to My Southern. And that's where you'll find a number of things, but more importantly, where you'll find your grades as they are updated throughout the semester. To access the course itself, we go to Online Class. And this will be my login. And I need to find the course. 213, their terminology here is kind of cryptic. I think this is it. Okay, so that's what my page looked like. I want it to look like something you're going to see. So I'm going to switch over to the student view, the preview, and it sent us to the tools page. No problem. Look over here on the left. This panel on the left-hand side has all the links that you'll need to get where you need to go. First one we're going to look at is course information. This is Start Here. Before we do that, I want to call your attention to this SWVCTC, the Southern Email System. If you click on this one, it will allow you to send emails to members of your class, including your instructor. And it won't burden you with having to look through the college directory and find all the students in the class or any one of the students in the class that you want to communicate with. So it sort of narrows the scope so that you don't have to look everywhere to find your recipients. The only disadvantage to this Blackboard tool is that you cannot receive emails through this tool. You can only send. So to receive emails, you need to open your Southern email account, either with the web app or if you have it linked to your to Outlook or some other application on your computer or on your phone. Then you can get your you can receive emails. Okay, now let's go back to Start Here. Start Here is where you're going to find the syllabus and some course information. This is not where the meat of the course is, where all the information is and where the testing takes place. This is your starting point. I've created a little welcome message. You can read that at your leisure. And then you'll come to syllabus and course instructions. Okay? Inside this folder, you will find the syllabus here. And if you click on that link, it will give you the syllabus in the Blackboard in the browser. Just down here. Just like that, so you can look at it there. You can access this from a remote location, or either here, this file right here, or if you go back, follow the breadcrumbs. Right, these things at the top are called breadcrumbs. Go back here. You also have the course access there, so you don't have to go inside the this item in order to find the syllabus file. But if you click on that syllabus file, it'll open it up in your browser, and you can look at it there. Right? We'll go over it in just a few minutes. But you may want to save a copy on your computer. And to do that, you just go up here to the right, see this down arrow, it says download. That allows you to download it and save it anywhere you want. Or you can go ahead and open it in your Adobe Acrobat Reader. I'll talk about that in a minute also. Okay, I already have a copy, I don't need to do that. But I'm going to leave it open so we can look at it later. By the way, stream of consciousness, while we're here, many of the documents that I produce and distribute to the class are in PDF format. That is, they can be read by any computer that has installed on it Adobe Acrobat Reader, which is a free program. Right? You just have to go to Adobe and download their free Acrobat Reader and install it on your computer. The reason I don't like to look at any documents in my browser, except in this case, is that when you try to print them, sometimes they don't print right. If you print them from your browser, if you use this little print icon up here, it'll allow you to print, but it may not look right. And it may have some things missing, it may have some odd characters changed. So I always download it to my computer, load it up in Adobe Acrobat, and then print it. Okay, so let's go back over here. That's the syllabus, and we'll look at that in detail in just a few minutes. Here is my schedule. So if we open this one, you can download it same way as before, or we can look at it here, and this will show you where I am. The only time that I'm on the Logan campus here, you'll see, is on Fridays. Right? And the only time that I will see you in class is during this last segment here. This is the lab space, the lab time that's allotted for our class from 3 p.m. till 5 p.m. This part of the class is the lecture part. And it's called asynchronous, which is a fancy word for saying everything happens on the web within Blackboard. And notice that there's a class ahead of you. So, and we'll talk about what to do when you arrive on the first day and subsequent days a little bit later. But now for my schedule. These mean I'm in class, these blue ones. These red ones are my office hours. Now, since we're confined at home, at least my full-time employer, New River Community and Technical College, sent everybody home, and that's where we work from. So any office hours I have, we would contact through Zoom. Right? And inside the syllabus, I have the connection for loading the Zoom app or the client that you will need to put on your computer or on your phone so that you can use this Zoom ID number. This ID number right here is my personal ID number, and that's the one I use for my office hours. So during this time, I will be logged on to my computer in a Zoom session, and all you have to do is crank up your Zoom, plug in this ID number, there's no password, and you can connect with me. The only possible problem would be is somebody beats you to it. If I've already got somebody in my office hours, then you'll go into the waiting room, and you'll be in the waiting room until I finish with the other student. So if you don't have time, then you may have to come back later, or the other possibility is if there's a better time than these, send me a message, email me through the Southern email system. That's the mode of communication. In fact, it's dictated by the college. We have to communicate through the Southern email system. Just send me a message, the time that you want to meet, And if it's within my schedule, then I will send a reply with a link, and you just click on that link and it'll bring you up in the session at the appointed time. Okay, so that's my schedule. Let's see, I'm going to reduce that. This other stuff is required by the college, so you can read that at your leisure. Now you can get to the learning modules through this link, I believe. No, that's not it. Let's just do it this way. Go over to the left-hand panel, go down to Course Materials and Learning Modules. That's where you will find all the information that you need to pass the course. All right, first thing on the list is something that the college puts in their end of course evaluation. So at the end of the course, there'll be a survey that you can take, and you can either give me a glowing report and the course a glowing report, or you can trash us to your heart content. Now, the course schedule, which is also in the syllabus, I just extracted it and put it here so you have easy access. This is the schedule day by day that we will follow in the course, assuming that there are no changes. And these days with coronavirus and all this other stuff, changes, there's probably a 50-50 chance of having future changes. So how will I communicate those to you? Well, if I know of the change in time, then I can tell you about it in the class, in the lab space. If it's not appropriate to do it that way, then I will send you an email. Right? So that means that you need to check your email account from Southern at least once a day. Or if you like the way I handle it, I link my email account on my phone. So whenever you send me an email, it pops up with a notification on my phone and I get it really quick so I can respond. Assuming I'm not driving or I'm not otherwise occupied, I'll respond rather quickly. Okay, course schedule. So what are we going to be doing this semester? Well, all the lecture activities here are going to be asynchronous, that is, they're on the web, and this is a guide for what we would be doing if we were in class. So I thought that was the best way to approach the problem, how to keep you on schedule. And that is follow these dates, and on that date, you should begin these activities. So this class business and discussion of the syllabus and class expectations, I'm doing that now, but I'm going to add a little bit to it and answer any of your questions in the lab space. So even though this is under lectures, we can cover some lecture items, like if you have questions and there's time, and we can cover those items in the lab when we're face to face. So what we'll do this first day in the lab is safety and how to produce a lab report. The items that you want to start, you want to dig into the PowerPoints that I'll show you where those are in a minute. Read the chapters 1, chapters 2, and then there will be, now these, let me tell you the difference between this left-hand block and this right-hand block. The left-hand block is the structure of the textbook from which the PowerPoints were taken. It's not your textbook. Your textbook is here, authored by Brown. So they're side by side, so you'll know where to look in your textbook to get the same information that's produced in the PowerPoints. Okay. So you want to cover these two chapters in the first week. And by the next time we meet on the 28th of August, we'll have a lab session, but you can also ask questions. And I'll show you where everything is, but every lecture and every review session in a face-to-face environment that took place in the spring semester is recorded, and the links are available in Blackboard. So you don't have to go blind into this material. You can get my lecture on these chapters, then you can get the follow-up review session, which always occurs a week before the exam. The exams are due, I've highlighted them in yellow. So this first exam on those two chapters is due on the 4th of September. Now the format of the exams, I'll talk about that in a minute. Let's not muddy the water too much. So what are we going to be doing in lab? Right. The first two sessions, 21st of August and the 28th of August, you will not need eye protection or lab coat. So if you have them on order, there's time for them to arrive. The first time that you will need those items is on the 11th of September for this lab techniques lab. We'll actually be hands-on doing some things in the lab. This graphing techniques is more drawing stuff and answering questions and reading material in the exercise. So we'll go over that in class, and I'll help you along, and hopefully you'll get the idea of how scientists present data. When they get numbers, how's the best way to present it so it's understandable by both the author of the article and the reader. So when you produce research, you have to understand it, of course, because you may have to defend it. And you want your readers to understand it. So graphing is one way to present the data so that it's easily understood and makes the point that you want to make in your publication. So we're going to learn graphing techniques. There's no formal report with this one. The next one, lab techniques, there's no formal report with that one either. Your first formal report comes with waters of constitution and hydration. And at that point, I will inspect your lab notebooks to see if you've prepared them correctly. More about that later. All right, so you'll see some of these are blanks. Well, this Monday, of course, has to be blank because we're not going to be there. I put that in there because that's a holiday for the college. And it's just a reminder, if you have any Monday classes, don't show up on that day. But this blank is on a Friday, which means that there's no scheduled lab. And since the lecture is all on the web or on Blackboard, there's no need for you to come to class on that day. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be there every day, every Friday for the entire semester. I will be in that space. So if you need face-to-face and there's just something about Zoom, either your internet connection's bad or you just don't like the way Zoom behaves, then you can come to the lab at that time. The problem is I may have let's see, no, I won't have any other classes. I'm thinking through this as we go. There won't be anybody else in there but me on that time period. So you can come in and we can discuss any problems you have. If nobody comes, I'll be working on other stuff. There's no shortage of things to do. Okay, so that's what these blanks are on Fridays. That means you don't have to come to class on that day. You can come and I'll be there. Okay, so it looks like we're going to have, in addition to the orientation in the beginning, we'll have a lab there. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So we'll have 7 labs for the 16 weeks of the semester. Let's see. So there are a lot of free days in there. In fact, I missed this one. I should have graded that one out. That's another missing one too. Now, what could change that schedule? Well, if we run into difficulties with a lab and have to either postpone it or pick it up again the next week, then you will have to show up and do something, okay? If we complete labs on schedule and there are no changes in the schedule, then these blocks will be free time. But if we have to postpone a lab, if we have to move a lab, if we have to redo a lab, if we have to complete a lab, then those spaces will be available for that purpose. How will you know? You'll know because I'm going to email you or tell you in class. So what does that mean? That means if for some reason you miss the class and we push part of it to the next week, you're going to miss that information. Because I may not email that one. Everybody's supposed to be in lab, so I'm going to tell you if that's the case. If a change occurs when you're not in the lab, then I'll send everybody an email. That's why you check your email every day. Okay, other important factors here. You're going to have, how many? 7 chapter-based exams. The first exam is on the first 2 chapters. Second one's on the 3rd and 4th chapter. After that, we're rolling pretty good. You only have 1 chapter per exam past that. Okay. This is when mid-semester grades are due, October 12th. So you'll have lots of assessments to go into that calculation. And this is the last day to drop with a W. If for some reason you have to drop, then that's the last day you can do it. And this is our Thanksgiving break. Now there will be a final exam on the 11th of December, or that's the due date for the 11th, for the final exam on the 11th of December. And the final exam is multiple choice, and I haven't decided how to distribute it yet. There's time, I can tell you that later. Either it could be in a document that I place in Blackboard, or it could be as a Blackboard exam. So you actually go into Blackboard and you do the exam on your computer. But more of that later. I will have made that decision probably before the first exam. And then I have to turn grades in on the 14th of December. Now, there's supposed to be penalties. If you're late with an exam, if you're late with a report, there are percentage penalties. But we're supposed to be flexible there, because suppose you test positive for corona. You got to stay out for 14 days. Right? So, and you may not feel very good at that time either. So let's just say there are penalties for late assignments, and I'll make decisions based on your individual circumstances. Okay, now what's beyond that? I've got some supplemental documents in here, in this location. This one is naming documents. Right? How do we name documents? We'll cover that in the lectures, in the recorded lectures. Here's a periodic table of the elements. Right? Here's information on solubility. And here's one on stoichiometry. We haven't defined what stoichiometry is yet, but it has to do with using balanced equations to determine the outcome of a reaction. That's the short version. Right? Those are supplemental documents that are helpful. Okay, back on the breadcrumbs. What's beyond that? Beyond that is a folder for each exam. Right? So there should be 7 of them, And the final exam I haven't put in here yet because I haven't decided how to distribute it. But each one of these folders, if you open it up, is constructed similarly. There'll be some extra documents, right? There'll be PowerPoints, right? So these PowerPoints are of each chapter, and they're in 3 different formats, right? So this format is a PowerPoint format. So if you have Microsoft Office, you will have PowerPoint, and you can access these slides through your PowerPoint app. If you're somewhere that you don't have access to your PowerPoint app, then you can call up this PDF, and it gives you the same slides in an Acrobat version. The only problem is if there are any animations or linked videos in the PowerPoints, PDF does not transfer those over. So I came up with a solution. If all you have is your web browser and access to the internet and Blackboard, you can call up this HTML5. It's written in the language of the browser. So you can go through there. I'll call one up in just a second. You can go through there and look at the slides, and you get all the videos and animations as well. So this is what one looks like. It just pops up like that, and you can work your way through the slides like that. Okay, on your browser. Okay. So chapter 1, chapter 2, all the PowerPoints are like that. So let's go back our breadcrumbs. Now, here's the video link for the lecture. It was produced on 24th of January in the spring semester. And that is a video of myself in the classroom discussing these topics, chapters 1 and 2. Then when we get to a review session, we have this review for chapters 1 and 2. And also we have, sometimes I put a little discussion in there on the lab that's going to follow on that day. So this has a little bit extra, talking about the graphing lab. The review documents that go with the review video are in this folder. Okay, so what are they? Well, these are a group of questions and problems, either in the, they're in PDF format. This is the form. So you call this up, and it looks just like an exam. Right? Here's an example. See, it just looks like an exam right there. Multiple choice questions all the way down. And at the end, it has useful information. All of my printed exams do. And this would have more value if you were in seat, face to face. So there's useful information at the back. Things that you don't have to memorize. So that's what the review document looks like. Now, how do you know if you got them right? Well, if you go through it, answer all the questions after you've studied the chapter, of course, then you'll find out which ones are wrong by going to this review key. Right? This gives you all the answers to that review document. And the review document, this one I noticed had some fill in the blanks. So let's go down here. There are a lot of them. All right, here we go. There you go. So we want to write the chemical formula for these named compounds. Those are the answers. Okay. So there are a set of rules that I describe in the lecture and reiterate in the review videos that will tell you how to do this. Okay. Now, suppose the answers alone aren't enough. It's a complicated problem, and you need to know how to work it, or at least one way to work a problem. That's what these review worked problems are. That's my handwriting, right? I try to be as legible as possible. And this identifies the chapter and the problem number. So if you're having difficulty understanding how a problem works, you can go to this document, look up the one that's giving you trouble, and see how I did it. Okay? That pattern is followed throughout the course. For every exam, it's the same way. This is for exam 1, which includes chapters 1 and 2. Okay, let's back up a little bit more. There we go. So that's what you'll find. Now notice here, there are no exams, right? It says exam, but these are the materials you need to study for the exam. The exams are separate, and I'll show you where those are in just a minute. But first, I want to call your attention to extra credit. This one is extra credit, getting to know your periodic table. You need to learn symbols. So first of all, look at this one. This is a periodic table that I built myself because I couldn't find one that satisfied me. So I built this one, and I identified the elements for the symbols that I want you to memorize, right? So that you don't have to memorize the whole table. These are the important ones. So here you have in the red boxes and sort of pinked out, these are the syllables you need to memorize. Looks like a lot, but if you do it methodically, I'll give you a way to do it in just a second, then you can memorize all these symbols. Notice that there are no names in this periodic table. You'll have to look those up. You have to dig for the information. And it's a funny thing about the human brain. The things that we struggle with are the things that we remember long term. So if you struggle to find the names for each of these elements, it just brings you one step closer to having them inserted in your long-term memory. Okay, so how do you do that? Well, the best way I've found, and I've evidenced from my students over the years, make yourself flashcards. Now you can buy the flashcards, but that short circuits one crucial exercise in learning them, making the cards. If you make the cards, then you have on one side, let's pretend this is a card, if you can see me in the thumbnail. One side, you write the symbol on it, and the other side, you write the name. And then you flip through these cards, memorizing them as you go, and go back through several times. Then you go through and say, I know that one, got it, flip it over, that's correct, put it in one pile. That one, oh, I missed it, put it in another pile. The right pile, the wrong pile. So you get the right pile, and then you go back through the wrong pile, you try it again. Any you get right, put them in the right pile. And keep doing that until you get them all done. Then you go back through the pile again. Repetition. Repetition is your friend. If you repeat something over and over, it forces it into your long-term memory. And that's where you want these things to be. Okay, so those are the elements that you need to memorize. Why do you need to memorize these? Because this is the alphabet. Chemistry's alphabet is symbols in the periodic table. You have to know those before you can do anything else. If you don't know those symbols, then you won't be able to write compounds. You won't be able to write equations or balance them. You won't be able to do most any calculations because you don't know the symbols. You have to know these. Failure is no substitute. You cannot fail in this. You've got to know those symbols. Okay, that was the element symbols. Now, I've created an extra credit exercise for you. And I think the extra credit, these extra credits are worth, if you do both of them, see there are 2 of them. If you do both of them together, they're worth half an exam grade. So they can boost your score early on in the semester, so that if we get something a little more difficult, what in the world? A little more difficult later on, and your scores slide, this can give you some buffer. So these extra credits are available. You don't have to do them, but if you want to get credit for them, you do them before the first exam. That's when they're due. Getting to know your periodic table. What does it look like? All right. You have instructions here of how to complete the table. And here's your blank table. Right. So print that out, fill it out like the instructions say, then scan it or photograph it and submit it. Okay, you're probably wondering, where do I submit that thing? Well, if you, let's see. Well, I don't have a place for you to submit it, do I? I'll fix that. I'll fix that. There'll be a place for you to submit. If you click on this, I'll put it in a folder. That's what I'll do. I'll make it an assignment, and then there'll be a way for you to submit. So how do you scan it? Well, if you have a multifunction printer, you can scan, no problem. All of them have scanning capability. If you don't have a multifunction, then you can get an app on your phone. I think all iPhones have a built-in app that will take a picture and convert the picture into a PDF file. But Androids, as far as I know, don't have that. And we need to get an add-on for, as soon as I find it, well, I know what it's called. It's called Cam Scanner. So you just go to the Play Store for your Android phone and download and install Cam Scanner. Then you're able to, they're going to try to sell you a version, just take the free version. Then you can photograph your document and tell it, and it'll convert it into a PDF file. Then your PDF file, you just transfer it from your phone, however you want to. Email it to yourself or whatever. Then you submit it. So how about this one? I have to change this one too, so it'll be a way to submit. By the way, if you have difficulty with Blackboard submitting assignments like this, once you have the completed document, you can email them to me as an attachment. That's an alternative form. The problem with that is, though, I get so many emails, sometimes they might get lost. So if you send it through Blackboard, it shows up in my gradebook, and I can't ignore it then. Okay, so what is this one? When we learn how to name compounds, this gives you a little practice, a little extra practice. These are some rules, right, at the top. And this is the assignment. Some of them will be chemical formulas that you have to name. Some will be names that you have to write the formulas for. And you put those in this document, right? And that's the one that you be sure your name is on it, right? I can't give you credit if I don't know your name. And then you fill it in, scan it or photograph it and send it to me. Okay, those are 2 extra credits. Now, about extra credits. I don't give special extra credit to anybody. If one person gets it, you all get it. So don't dig yourself into a hole and later on in the semester come back and say, I need extra work to make up the difference. You're not going to get it. There are certain things, certain concepts and skills that you have to develop to pass this course. I give you these extra credits to help you develop those skills. There'll be bonus questions in the exams, and they're there to show what you can do. So you're not going to come up with a D at the end of the semester and I give you a finger painting project to make up the difference. Finger painting has nothing to do with this course. So don't ask for extra credit. If it's available, everybody will get it. Okay, so that's what the modules look like. There's exam 1, 2, similar things. There's your lecture, there's your review, there are your PowerPoints, right? It looks to me like there's something a little bit different in this one. In this review, we have, there's useful information for each of these. There's PDF formats, okay, exam 2. Okay, I thought there was going to be something different in there because of what the description said. All right, that's not accurate. I don't have Blackboard practice tests in this one, so I'll have to correct that as well. But all of these modules are open, so you can go through and look at every one of them if you're ambitious and you want to just look ahead, or you finish things ahead and you want to go look at them. That's fine with me. So there's your last exam. I haven't opened the final exam yet. If you need extra help and I'm not available, sometimes you can get somebody else's perspective on a topic by going to one of these others. Khan Academy is a good one. Sal Khan does most of their videos, and he does a good explanation of things related to chemistry. Mr. Causey, yeah, it's kind of iffy. If you can get used to his talk, he talks very fast. There's some other connections, but these are not top of the line. Khan is first choice. Then I have these separate ones. And I'm not sure who did these, but I thought they would be useful. And just look at them and see if they're appropriate for the chapter that you're in. I skipped one up here. This is an online version of flashcards. And this is for learning your elements. Right? So if you can't afford index cards, or you just don't like to do that type of work, you can go to this website and it will drill you on symbols. Okay, those are external links. All right, what else do we have here? Safety data sheets. Safety is your first priority in the lab. If you're not safe in the lab, then you might as well not be there. And one of the ways to be safe is to know what you're dealing with. And that's what these safety data sheets do. If you look at a lab exercise, which is in this folder down here, and you see a chemical that you're unfamiliar with, you want to know, is it dangerous? Is it innocuous? What is it? Go to the safety data sheets. And each one of these, I think they're in alphabetical order, maybe. Look up the one that's appropriate to the exercise you're going to be doing. And this is a good place to get information to put in your lab notebook, because your lab notebook has to have a section on safety, right? We'll talk about the lab notebook. I'll stick it in here, but we'll talk about it in class too. These safety data sheets are also printed and in a bound book, in a 3-ring binder in the lab. So you can go to that lab book if you don't want to look at them this way, and you can flip to the page with the chemical and see whether it's safe, what precautions need to be taken. But it's a duplicate of all of these. These are all the chemicals that we're going to be exposed to, either in this course or the second course. I think I included there also. This is 213. If you take 214, then those safety data sheets are there too. Okay, let's go back and look at lab exercises. All right, so here's where all your exercises are located. The first things you see are documents, descriptive documents for the that apply generally to the lab itself. When you write a formal report, if you've never written a formal report, you probably don't know, what's involved, right? So I've got these documents prepared describing how to do a formal report, for instance. Well, common errors in preparing a lab report is one. Everybody knows about plagiarism in terms of writing an English paper, right? But nobody stops to think that you can also plagiarize in a scientific report. And there are a handful of scientists over the years who have been caught doing it. And it's basically a career ender. If you get caught plagiarizing someone else's work, then you're going to have a hard time finding a job anywhere as a scientist. So this describes what plagiarism is. This gives you common errors that you may encounter in preparing a lab report. Right? And in class, I'll give you a structure for the lab report. This one, extended character sets, is a little document I put together. It's kind of small there, but if you print it out, you can look at the details. What it allows you to do is you can extend the characters that are not obvious on your keyboard. Science uses lots of special characters, and most of them I've compiled here and given you the keyboard combination code that will insert that character into your document. Now, some of them are kind of finicky, right? So you may have to try, there are several of them that have different key combinations for the same character. But you can try those on your computer and see if they work. Just go into a Word document, which is where you're going to be generating your report probably. Or if you have an Apple computer, you'll have some other form. And I've got some Apple combinations over here. I don't use Apple computers, so you'll have to try these out and see if they work. But those are there for your benefit so that you don't have to go to the character map, find the character, copy and paste it. That takes forever. And when you've got a train of thought going, you don't want that delay. Okay, so when you write a formal report, how am I going to grade it? What am I looking for? I've created this rubric. Right, everybody knows what a rubric is. It's a way of quantifying the unquantifiable. In other words, I'm looking for these characteristics of your report, and you get a certain number of points right here for meeting those standards. If you get all 12s, if you've got a perfect report down this left-hand side, you'll notice that you can get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 times 12 is 108. Right, so you can get more than 100 points. Yeah, 108. Then, of course, if you fall behind in certain areas, that's where your lower grade comes from. So I would use this rubric when you're writing your report. Look at the rubric and let it tell you what I'm looking for. Okay, that's a good way to make the grade that you want, is to give the instructor what he or she is asking for. Because our primary goal, our end goal, is for you to be competent in the subject we're teaching. And this is one way we do it. Okay. So just a word about lab notebooks. The notebook that you're going to need is described in the syllabus. And I'll tell you what. Let me look here and see and finish this up. Then we'll go to the syllabus, and I'll jump through the syllabus and hit the high points there. All right. So here are your lab exercises. I got exercise 0 is for safety. Exercise 1 will be our introduction to graphing techniques. So you won't need a lab coat or eye protection for these two. The lab techniques, number 2, you will need your lab coat and eye protection, but that's further down the line. Now, how do you do? Well, this attached file, call it up, there it is. My goal is to print these out, hard copy, and give them to you 1 week before the lab starts, before we're supposed to do the lab. But that doesn't prevent you from printing your own copy if you want. Or if I give you a copy and you lose it, you have access to this one and you can print out another copy. The only problem with printing them at Southern is Southern has no color printing capabilities. So if there are any colors in here like this red points or anything else down the line that's colored, fortunately this one looks like it's not. Okay, it looks like they're all grayscale except for the points, so that won't be a problem. When I print these out, make photocopies of them at Southern, they're going to be all black and white. So if you have any colors in there, you won't be able to see them. Let's see. So that's the first example, lab 1. So you'll get one of these each. Now, these, I'm pretty sure you can submit these in Blackboard. So instead of going there for your file, go into the exercise link itself. And what you'll see is a place to attach files. So you browse your computer and attach the completed exercise. Now, if it's a non-formal report, you'll complete the exercise in the document that's handed out. And you'll just need to photo it or scan it. Make a PDF file, then you can submit it. Or, better, fill it out by hand and bring it to class the next time. If I hand it out, the week that you do the exercise in lab is the clock starts. The exercise completion is due the next time we come into the lab for the next exercise. So sometimes that's 1 week, sometimes it's 2 weeks. Right? So that's the deal. The labs are due when you come in ready to do the next lab. You can turn them in early if you want. You can do them online, turn them in early, get them out of your hair. But if you hand them to me in person, then you don't have to go through the scan and submit part. Okay, let's go back, breadcrumbs. Here we go. You'll notice that there may be some supplemental documents. This Waters of Constitution and Hydration discussion is a separate document to give you a little more information about that lab. Okay? Boyle's law is gases. Calorimetry is heat. Now, you're going to see some things different from this point on. In the spring, we were away for spring break. Coronavirus hit. They wouldn't let us back on campus, so I had to improvise. So what I did was I created, for this particular lab, I created a video. It discussed the lab, introductory theoretical material. It discussed in nauseating detail, step by step, what was done in the lab. And then I gave the class the data from a previous class. I dug up some data, presented that data in this document. So with that discussion and description and this data, my class generated their formal reports. Okay, so you can use this information to guide you, but I don't want to see that data in your report. We're going to be in the lab, so I want to see your data. Okay, this is just for comparison purposes. And from this point on to the end of the semester, that's the pattern. I created a video and give you the data. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so those are your 7 exercises. And I think that's it for Blackboard. Even before the virus hit, and all of my face-to-face courses, I put everything that I handed out in class went into Blackboard. So actually I was ready for the virus and just didn't know it. So that's why you can find everything in here that you need for the course, because this has been my pattern forever. And I just, within the past year and a half, started recording classroom sessions so that my class, the students could go back and review. Because usually when you're sitting in a classroom, especially for 2 hours, you only catch about half of what's going on. Right? So if you have a video, you can go back and view it and see the stuff that you missed. It's a very good learning tool. Okay, so that's Blackboard. Now let's go over here and look at the syllabus. All right, the syllabus is arranged. The first couple of pages are mandated by the college. They have to be in this format. Right? And there's a lot of information here. It's very densely packed. Description, what's it worth, the name of the course, prerequisites that you already have or you wouldn't be in the course, textbook, right? This is your required textbook. This one here is the custom lab manual. It has the lab exercises that somebody decided that we should be doing in the lab. Well, all the labs that I present are of my own making, or I find other sources for them. So you don't need to buy this special manual. It's a custom publication, so you can't resell it unless you find a student that's going to take this course in the future and sell it to them. And if I'm still teaching it, they won't need it either. But the textbook is here. You need that textbook. Okay, what other materials do you need? You need your lab coat. And I sent you dimensions of required materials in an email. And it included the lab coat, which is knee length or just above the knee, that's fine. Eye protection. You can either buy goggles or you can buy these safety overglasses with side protection on them. They're all made out of polycarbonate, so they're shatter resistant. And if you wear glasses and these over the top of them, then you're pretty safe from flying objects. And you need a scientific calculator. So how do you know you've got the right calculator? Well, I've checked them all. All of them online, all of them in the stores and Walmarts and so forth. And I noticed that if they say scientific calculator on the package, that's all you need to know. Just buy one that says scientific calculator, and you will have all the functions you need for this course. Okay, this other stuff is required for our evaluation of the program. You can look at it if you want. Course learning outcomes. These are some high points, topics that we're going to cover in the class. These are some goals that the school says we have to that is our target. Critical thinking, you're going to get critical thinking exercise, especially, well, in the lecture, but especially in the lab, because you're going to take that data and you're going to interpret it. That requires critical thinking. You're going to communicate it in a formal document. You're going to become quantitatively literate, because if there's one thing I do with my classes is I have them work lots of problems. The more problems, the better. In other words, actually, my motto is, if you've worked problems of a particular type in chemistry and you're not bored stiff working these problems over the course of the class, if you're not bored stiff, then you haven't worked enough of them. My goal is to bore you to death working these problems. That means that you know it backwards and forwards, and you can apply the techniques, the skills to solve these problems without thinking about them. It's just intuitive. And the only way you can get that is to work lots of different problems. The more problems, the better. If you ever think to yourself, oh, I've worked enough, I don't know it very well, but I've worked enough, then you're setting yourself up for failure. Work these problems. Use the documents I give you with the solutions, with the descriptions of how they're solved. This last one, they always put that one in there, intercultural competence. The way I approach intercultural competence is not from the students that are from different cultures. It is from the scientists that are responsible for the chemical principles. They don't all come from Northern Europe. They're not all decrepit old white males. They come from all over the world. And I try to hit those high points as we go. That this cultural competence is part and parcel of science. Science doesn't care who you are. It doesn't care what color your skin is. It doesn't care what your race is or what your other background is. Science is a method of getting at the truth. So if you learn that method, then cultural competence isn't required. You're focused on the facts. It's only when people with an agenda, a political agenda usually, they appropriate this cultural competence to use science to accomplish their goals. That's when science fails. Okay, so what's next? Now we get into my format. That was the school's format that's dictated. This is other information that you can use. There I am. There are my phone numbers. If you call this phone number, that's my phone at New River in my office there. You can call there and leave a message, and it'll pop up on my phone as a voice file, an audio file. Or you can contact me on my cell phone. Usually if I see some phone call coming in, I don't recognize the number, and I don't have it attached to your name, then I won't answer it. So leave me a message. A better way is to call my cell phone and text me a message. If you do that, and you do it from the same phone every time you do it, then you only have to tell me the first time you text me who you are and what class you're in. If you do that, then every text message that you send me from that same phone, after that, I can just scroll back up to the first message and see who it is. With your emails, that's a different story. When you send me an email, I want you to tell me, I'll see your name, but I teach other courses. So in your email, preface your email with not just your name, but what class are you in? And then you can start the specific text of your problem. My office location normally is on the New River campus in Beaver, West Virginia. that's near Beckley, in this room. But that's not valid anymore. So my meetings are all by Zoom, right? And there's the Zoom ID again. And there are my office hours again, just like in that color document. All this other stuff is useful. There's your textbook. No, that's not your textbook. Required text is up here. Here we go. There's your required text. This textbook is not required. But if you want to find a used copy, then it more closely correlates with the PowerPoints. But you don't have to buy it. I just put it in there for information purposes. There's your calculator description. I want you to use a real calculator. Don't use your cell phone calculator. The reason is that when you're taking an exam, cell phone calculators are forbidden. For one good reason. Smartphones are smart. They can get you lots of information on the screen, forbidden information that will answer questions during an exam. So I don't want any cell phones. It's kind of hard to police that when I'm not there, but I had a student do that on me. Actually, last semester. I think it was last semester. Anyway, they were using their cell phone ostensibly as a calculator, but in fact, I learned that they were using it to cheat. So I won't tell you how I deal with cheating. You'll find out the hard way if you decide to cheat. I don't think you will, but that's just a warning. If you do, the college has its protocol for dealing with cheating, and I have my protocol for dealing with cheating. I won't say any more. This is a reminder, every lecture, every review session is through YouTube links that I put in Blackboard. Right? So you have access to them. So when you click on that link, it'll take you to YouTube in the particular video. Lab materials. Okay, here's a picture of the, an example of the lab notebook, the bound book that I want you to purchase. 95 cents plus tax at Walmart, if you can find them. The book is quadrill lined. That is, it's not just an essay book with horizontal lines, it has vertical lines. The reason for that is so that you can go in and as part of your lab exercise, you may need to draw a graph. So you need those lines, those crossed lines, to construct a graph. If you can't find one at Walmart, or if you just don't want to bother, come to class. I'm going to bring a few of them with me, and I'll sell you one for $1. The only reason I charge you just a plain dollar is so I don't have to make change. There's your lab coat, eye protection. Other personal protection equipment will be supplied by the course. Gloves, masks you can get at the front door. Everybody has to wear a mask when they come in the building. If you have your own mask, bring it. Or I think they will allow face shields as well. If masks are too confining, you have trouble breathing, then invest in a face shield. All right, so how you got your grades calculated? Well, all of the exams combined together are 80% of your grade. All right. Now, within that 80%, we have individual chapter exams, and out of that 80, 60% of that 80 is the chapter exams. The final exam is worth 20%. Okay, so that's 60% of the overall grade, 20% of the overall grade, which adds up to 80% of the overall grade. The labs represent 20%. So 15% is lab reports, both formal and informal, 5% for your lab skills, and your notebook. Right? So I want to see some competence in the lab. You need to know exactly what you're going to do before you walk in the lab. That's the first safety principle. Know what you're going to do. All right. How do you know what you're going to do? That's where the notebook comes in. You read the exercise. You digest the exercise. You put the exercise in your notebook, in your own handwriting. Why are you doing the lab? Safety precautions, procedures, what to do. Then set aside a section for your data, the information you're going to collect in the lab. Have a place for it. The best way to do that is in a table. Set up a table with information that you're going to collect. That way, if you put in information as you go, sometimes it's numbers, sometimes it's observations, and you get down to the bottom and you look up and you see a blank spot, you know that you may have missed something. So you go back and check it and say, did I miss something here? All right, yes, I did. I got to start over. Or I got to pick up that data point somewhere else. Or, no, I skipped it for a reason. I don't need it. Draw a line through it. Okay? By the way, if you make a mistake in your lab notebook, what do? Take out your eraser? No, that's forbidden. You know, vampire time. If you make a mistake in your lab notebook, you draw a line through it if it's just a line of text or if it's a line of numbers, and put the right numbers in as close to that as possible. If you make a huge error, then you box it in and draw a big X through it, and then rebuild that information correctly. Okay, so that's your notebook. Lab skills and your notebook. I'll check your notebook once at the beginning and once at the end, and that together with your lab skills will tell me whether you know what you're doing, and that's 5%. Your reports are worth 15%, and together they're worth 20%. And that's as it should be. The course is worth 4 credit hours. Actually, the lab should be worth more, but it's easier to calculate with 20%. 1/4 of 4 hours is 25%. Right? 1 credit hour for the lab, 3 for the lecture. This should be 75%, but like I said, it's easier to calculate this way. Okay. There's the schedule again. Right? Certain classroom policies. There's one on plagiarism and you're on your honor. Withdraw from the course on the 2nd of November if you have to. Attendance. How do I gauge attendance? Well, 2 ways. One is when you arrive at the lab for an exercise, there'll be a sign-in sheet. It'll have your name on it, printed, and you just sign next to it. But you need to sign with your own pen. I want you to sign with your own pen so that you keep it, and I don't have to sanitize it for the next student. So bring your own pen. When you're in the lab, you want to mute your phones so that they won't disturb anybody. You can keep them on vibrate. So if your phone vibrates and it's somebody, it's an important call, then you leave the room. Don't go too far. Just go outside the lab, because actually you're not supposed to be wandering around in this coronavirus time. Here's the blurb on extra credit. I've already told you about that. There are no makeup tests. Since the lecture part of the class is all online, makeup testing is irrelevant. You get them done when you get them done. In the lab, there are no extra quizzes. We just have the lab reports and the assessment of your skills and your notebook. That's it. You can collaborate with other students. It's just in the lab, you can't get any closer than 6 feet, right? So everybody's going to have their own bucket that you're assigned with your lab materials. And then any extra stuff I'll give you on the side. But you won't have any lab partners. Right? So your attendance at the lab when you're supposed to be there is critical, because you will not have a lab partner to fall back on. If you miss a lab, you miss that data, and you won't be able to write your report. So if you share information among students, it's pretty obvious that you will be sharing. I mean, if I see the same data from one student and the next, I know that you've got the data from somebody else. Wording, right? As old as my brain is, when I read one report, and then I pick up another report and say, I've seen that word, I've seen that sentence somewhere before. I go back and look at yours and I see they're identical, right? And I can't tell who they came from, who's cheating off of who, right? Who's plagiarized whose words. So if that happens, I'll grade you down. Exam etiquette, well, it's not a problem because you're going to be taking the exams at home. But how are you going to get your grades? Well, when you submit, if I use Blackboard, then Blackboard grades the exam for me. If I use another format like a PDF form where you have to print and fill it out and then take a picture and send it back to me, then I'll have to grade that myself. But where do the grades show up? Well, this is the My Grades page, right? Where you have My Southern Connection on the first page, the Southern homepage. You go into there and you'll find My Grades. And you'll see each of the items that can be graded. You may have a grade. In the beginning, there won't be that many, but they'll build up over time. And then there'll be one that you want to pay attention to. It's called Course Average as of, and a date will follow it. So when I get information, when I get assessments on your work, then I put them in my Excel spreadsheet, generates a calculated average for the course, and then I'll update that. And that's why I put as of, because it's as of a certain date. So if it's a certain date and you've turned something in, then, and you don't have a grade for it, that means it didn't go into the calculation of the grade. Right, so the grades can fluctuate over time. These are just some tips.
This is Donald Trump, and I'm running for the presidency of the United.
These are just tips, right? They'll help you. Office hours. So here's your instructions for getting to me on Zoom, right? There's my ID. There's the connection for downloading the Zoom app so that you can connect with Zoom. Let's see. This stuff is extra. There's a little campus safety blurb in here having to do with the virus problem. Inclement weather, you'll see that on practically every one of these. And then you'll have an agreement, a syllabus agreement. So we'll do that on our first day. You'll fill this out, hand it back to me, and of course read it. I mean, anything you sign, you need to read first. Right? It's always the same with contracts. But what I want to get from you is a phone number. A phone number that's suitable for texting, which usually means a smartphone. The reason for that is I will put that number in my phone with your name and I'll put it in a group so that if I'm delayed, I have to travel 2 hours from Beckley to get here, to get to Logan. If I'm delayed for any reason, then I can send everybody a text saying, yes, I'm going to be there. No, I'm not going to be there. Right? Yes, I'm going to be there, but I'm going to be late. Traffic accident, snow's piled up or I'm in a ditch. Then I can send you a message and you'll know whether to expect me or not. That's the purpose of that one. Now, rest assured, at the end of the semester, I'll take all of these documents with my students' personal information on it, and I shred them. They go through the shredder, never to be seen again. All right, that's the syllabus. I'll give you a little more instruction when we meet at first on how to create your lab notebook correctly, what I'm looking for. So don't be too concerned about that until we meet for the first time. So you should show up at least for the first meeting. Otherwise, you'll be lost for the rest of the year, or the rest of the semester. Okay, I don't think of anything else that needs to be discussed, and I've probably gone an hour and a half by now anyway. So I'll see you on at our first meeting, and best of luck to everyone.